Hey VV Nation, I'm Glenn.
And I'm Ryan. We've got a special event coming next month, May 1st. We're finally hitting the road. Now, we will be hosting some live streams. Tell them a little bit about the live streams we'll be doing.
We're gonna have the Stock Analysis Power Hour. Ryan will host that. Bring your stocks, let Ryan break them down for you. I'll also do a live stream called Trending Thursday. That's where we go through, look at what's going on in the market, what's going on in the news, and we analyze stocks. We also have a live presentation for those people who will be attending live as well. What's that, Ryan?
Now, we do have the presentation titled Unlocking the Secrets of Financial Success. Now, to register for free and get the details, just go to VectorVest.com/roadshow.
Let me click this. There you go. All right, you're good. Clear the chat.
Clear the chat.
Click on that little.
All right, we live, Joey?
We are good to go.
We are good to go. Excellent. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I can't be the only one seeing the optimism in the market right now. Wait. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I can't be the only one seeing the optimism in the market right now. Wait. Rid of this.
You have another tab open.
Yeah.
VectorVest.
There we go. I can hear you. All right, now I can hear it. Perfect. Now we are good to go. All right, everybody. Happy Wednesday. It is the Stock Analysis Power Hour. We're going to get the shopping list ready. I'm getting feedback, Joey. Something is open here. Let me take over the mouse for a second. Let's see here. I'm hearing myself. There's a window open where I'm hearing myself.
Yeah, hang on. Right this one. No. You have check your Chromecast.
That's what I'm trying to do. Let's see here. Oh, here it is. There we go. Now I can stop hearing myself twice. Once is enough, right? Oh, man. All right, Marvin says green light, but my watch list is rolling down again. Marvin, depends what stocks you're in right now. As far as this rally, I'm not sold on tech yet. I saw Tesla's earnings yesterday after the bell. The stock gapped up this morning. I am not surprised that some of those gains are being given away, right? What, revenue down 20% on vehicles on top. I mean, the only real hype was he announced that he's going to spend less time on Doge, more time on Tesla. The stock, went wild. But, I'm just not sold on that. Even NVIDIA, last time I looked at it, was lower than the open. So in this rally, again, you can play tech, but I'm thinking more risk when it comes to tech. We are seeing right now, look at this, foreign banks, foreign regional ETFs, foreign ETFs international, right? I've talked about foreign entities before. I don't think the playbook has changed too much, right? So, don't overthink it. Look, I already see you talking about SMCI. We could talk about SMCI and you can risk it. We're going to take a look at the chart in just a moment. But there is some optimism here, right? The color guard, we got the asterisks yesterday. Today, most likely we're going to get the asterisks again, right? As long as that green light holds, as long as the moving averages are in our favor. And it seems to be the case. But look at Dow Jones, 611 points. Let me just right click on this real quick. View stock. Nope, not that one. View stock graph. Let's go to 1 day. There it is, right? We got the gap up. Actually, we're lower than the gap up right now, lower than the open. So we are in the gap, trying to find some buying pressure there. So again, I'm not too sold on, I still think the gold playbook, the insurance stocks, commodities in general, right? Those are the play. I see Bitcoin at $94,000. I talked about it yesterday. The biggest thing that Bitcoin's got going for it right now, the reserve, that's old news. My opinion, as long as Bitcoin can prove itself less volatile than the MAG 7, which, I did the short yesterday. I looked at the MAG ETF, MAGs. It was down over 25%, right, on the performance chart in the last 3 months. Yeah, probably a little bit better today, especially with Tesla up. But Bitcoin has remained less than 15% volatility when I took a look at that performance chart. Gold is highly overbought. Bill, I am not going to disagree with gold, right? There's an article where the volume of gold had surpassed the Mag 7, right? It's becoming overcrowded. And do I think the gold trade is over or completely done? No, but I think gold is down today because you have, people, let me show you this real quick. Let me show you something real quick. And this is, disclaimer, I do talk about this in tonight's presentation. Look at this. We got the first break above the downward trend line, right? Market went bonanzas, but now we're seeing a big upper wick. I'm not quite sold on that. Even talk about tonight's video. You could say it's not relative. Bill, I know you say my videos too early, but again, it's hard because I got Power Hour, and then I've got the live stream with Glenn right after this. But that being said, I'm not sold on the tech rally, right? I see, if you did some nibbles, hey, because, just solely because of this, if I go back to 5-year chart, the consolidation or the prior swing high we saw in 2021, 2022, you see my green lines here. That's kind of where the range I was looking for level support in the Qs. You see we kind of went right in the middle of that, touched that level support there around 403, and it's been off to the races, right? So if you did, bottom fishing on tech, once, obviously if we break the upper trend line that we're in now, heed that warning. But if we break this zone here, that's going to cause some major damage. The only thing I'm really seeing that, obviously if, news driven, things with tariffs in China don't exactly work out as planned, yeah, we could see further downside action, right? But we're playing what the market gives us, right? I don't, like to, predict every, turn and angle of the market, right? That's how you make mistakes. Just look at the charts. Like Glenn said it best, right? Trade the chart, not your heart. Come check us out next Thursday. We're going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina, by the way. We're doing 2 live streams live. The event is free. Just go to VectorVest.com/roadshow if you want to check out the VIP experience. That includes a Simonier wine tasting. Pretty much an evening with Glenn and I. We're going to obviously talk about stocks. But on top of that, we're going to enjoy a fabulous dinner at Fahrenheit's rooftop restaurant. So just a great experience just to have some fun in general. The news, the market's too serious, right? Sometimes you just got to have a little fun, regroup, strategize, and hey, get back to it. Because right now we're showing weakness in that bearish trend, right? So I'm not going to, back up the truck and, start screaming SMCI and AMD and all that stuff. No, especially with that upper wick forming. I wasn't quite, sold on it today. One of the big reasons why it popped was Tesla. And that was, strictly news driven. Nothing good about the company really in the earnings call, except the fact that Elon's coming back to the office more. That's all I really got there. So with that information in hand, that little bit of background, what the market's doing, things of that nature. Oh, actually, one other thing I do want to show you just for those that are being a little bit more optimistic here. Let's do market timing. Yep, I was looking at XRO. DEW up signal. There's a big chance we will get a DEW up signal today, right? And the rules a little bit different this time. Because price action pierced this bottom envelope, we don't have to wait on DPO to get in positive territory for DEW up signal. Price action just has to be above that 30-day weighted moving average, right? Even so, I'm seeing a big upper wick here on the first day. Potentially, we could get a DEW. So I'm not sold on that, right? I want to see some follow through. Or if you are more conservative in nature or more prudent in nature, you can wait for the DPO to go in positive, to get more, confirmation that this downward trend has finally waned, right? So a 20% drop in sales is a bad thing. There were drops in net revenue. If I remember correctly, it was down or net income was down 71%, something crazy like that when it comes to Tesla. So again, I wasn't sold on the Tesla call by any means. I think it was just more hype about the Elon equation in that. But we all know that stock is, it's become political. Let's call it is what it is. So depending on how you feel about that, probably going to depend on how you trade it, right? All right, so that being said, I've got a watch list here. All right, start dropping me stock symbols. We're going to break these down. I've already got some here, NVIDIA, ARM, and then I put XRO here. This is a stock that was mentioned in Glenn's video yesterday. Just a disclaimer, my mom does own some Extra. I got her an Extra. I don't personally own it. I do have other family members that own Extra. It's not optionable, so I'm not going to play it too much. But yeah, so you see, look, tech, yeah, it's up today, but that trend is still in a bearish manner. Look at the sell recommendation still given. So again, if you are jumping into tech, just know it's going to be more aggressive in nature. All right, we got USAR. That is a like a rare earths play. I'm just going to throw in UAMY. That's the antimony stock I've been talking about forever. I was looking at it today. It's in the 340s at some point. That thing is not slowing down. Even the valuation went from 20 cents, the valuation, the VectorVest valuation, from the time I started talking about it till now, it's $1.91. Price action was around 60 cents-ish, depending on the day when I started talking about it. Now it's over $3, right? So you can see the rare earths, definitely a big play. I don't see that stopping anytime soon. Just because you hear about the importance on the news all the time. Let's see here, IBN, PLMR. I'm going to throw in Bitcoin. I know some of you may not like it. Some of you may well. Oh, TSLA. And there's actually another one. Was it SOLZ? There it is right here. 2 times Solana. Solana finally got its ETF as well. I don't think XRP's got one. I'll have to look that up. I don't think. Solana kind of snuck by me. Hasn't been trading very long. All right, we got silver. Yes, I'm going to look at silver. Silver, I think, should be on everybody's radar. That's all I'm going to say about silver right now. I think probably my video tomorrow might be on silver. Obviously, I'm going to see what the market does, see what opportunities the market brings. We got ETH. ETH is the sleepy horse right now. Honestly, I'm thinking Solana over Ethereum. Is XXRP? Is that a ETF? We don't have it. Maria, XXRP. Are you talking about just XRP, or is that an ETF? Because we don't have it. All right, someone put DJT. I'll put it in there. You know me, I don't like to get political in here. DIS, Disney. I was following. Cheryl, give me another political stock. You're going to end up in timeout. I'm just kidding. I'll look at it. LCID, Lucid. All right, Maria, I'm going to write that one down. Because I had a feeling, because I was doing tonight's video, I was looking at things to talk about. I was going to go the crypto route just because Bitcoin is holding its own when it comes to volatility right now. And I did see an ETF that holds Bitcoin and gold, and it just hit a new high. That I like, especially if you like crypto, and obviously you want some tangibleness there. The Bitcoin, or not the Bitcoin, the gold aspect. I might have to do that. It's between silver and crypto. Let's see here, XXRP. I'll just write that one down. I will talk to Angie, our data manager, see if we get that added to the database. Most likely we can. It is a social media. I know it's a social media. It's Truth Social, right? Let's see here. TXNM, SoFi, PLTY. The Yield Max on Palantir. Okay. I can get behind that. I think the Yield Maxes might. You don't have SILV either, but it's looking good on TOS. We don't have SRV. Thinkorswim, Roger, is SILV, is that the future symbol? I thought we had still SI. Oh, it's SLV, the ETF that we got. Okay. SEZL. Oh, you guys gave me some different ones. LRN. Okay. UEC. I'm going to put a VRT, Vertiv Holdings. That's an interesting one. All right, I think let me just scroll up through the comment section here. Just make sure I hit all of them. Did I get Cort? C-O-R-T? PLX, just in case. I think I might have missed one of those. BMA. All right. I think that's it. That MU Micron. Okay, we got a big list here. What we got? 30. Hit that like button, please. Support the channel. Let's see here. MU AG. This is going to be the last one. We got PLX, BMA, which I think we already did. Banco Marco. Yeah, the foreign entities. I mean, I don't like to fight what's working. All right, so the stock picks you got today. You can see the market here. 34 found. Ooh, we got a lot of stocks today, Joey. No more stocks. We got quite a few stocks here. So we're going to jump right into them. Thank you, Troy. Yeah, only 27 likes. We need more likes, people. Hit that like button. And if you haven't figured it out, next Thursday, Charlotte, North Carolina, if you're in the area, if you got nothing to do, hey, check us out. The day event is free. You get to see me and Glenn live. We've got some special presentations that are not going to be live, right? These are actually going over these presentations tomorrow again, but some great information there. And then the evening, we do have the VIP experience, especially if you just need a day to pamper yourself, a nice wine tasting, nice dinner, get some tips on how to, make some good money in the market, or at least stay on the right side of the market. Because even if you didn't take me and Glenn's advice as far as any stock picks, even if you just would have, not just me and Glenn, but the VectorVest 7 software, even if you just would have paid attention to the market time, you said the confirmed down since, was it December, right? December 14th, if I'm not mistaken. That's our most conservative signal, right? Hey, it doesn't mean go to the bank and sell everything, but it does mean, tighten your stops, potentially hedge your positions, use options, things of that nature, or, start building up cash, right? It's the best time to, start building up cash is when your stocks are in the profit, right? You don't want to build up cash when your stocks are at a loss, because you took a loss. All right, FIX, that's going to be the last one today. Thank you, Fox. All right, we got quite a few stocks here. Let's break them on down. But yeah, again, all positive territory today. XRO up 41%. Kroger, ICIC. Let me clear this out. There we go. All right, let's graph these. See what opportunities we got here. What layout do we want to use? Let's look at some sales growth rate, earnings growth rate. We're going to look at value, because this is a market where I want value. I don't want overbought, or not overbought, but overvalued, especially a lot of, can you resort to RT at some point? Yeah, Marvin, that's a great idea. You know what? Let's do that. We're going to get rid of the 3 and 8. We're going to add a parameter, RT. Do I already have it here? Yep, I do have it here. That makes sense. There we go. All right, 3-month chart. Actually, let's go to a year chart here. All right, here's Micron, right? You can see Micron, becoming undervalued during the sell-off over the last year. It has not been the year of semiconductors. Most of the semiconductor, really the space in general, you're not going to get RTs above 1. So if you're more conservative and if you're waiting for the trend to really be in the favor of the bulls, you got to have some patience. Otherwise, like I was saying, taking some nibbles here and there, good quality stocks, as long as you are disciplined, as long as you're not going to let the trade become emotional in case they keep rolling over, hey, that's up to you, right? But me personally, there's a lot of things going on right now where tech is really not the space to be. Yeah, you might be able to get quick pops there, but, we'll see how that plays out. But if I am going to get into tech, this is the type of, bottom fishing tech I want to look at, right? Stock is undervalued, right? Price action is below that 20-day EMA. So even for the short term, the momentum still to the downside. Look, the candlestick, full-bodied candlestick, price action lower than the open. It is filled in right now, right? A lot of that tech giving up those gains, growth rate and earnings. Again, the only real optimism I'm going to see when it comes to a semiconductor or a big tech company is just that the Qs, finally had one day break above that downward trend line, right? But we're seeing a wick on that very first day. So I'm not seeing that confirmation or the enthusiasm that I would like to see on that type of event, right? And look at the RT, still in unfavorable territory. So as long as you get in that RT, below 1, right? You're going against the grain. You're pretty much trying to fight the bears, right? But yeah, as far as Immune, I mean, I like the company. You know me, I used to do Semiconductor Thursday, right? I stopped it. I think I've done 1 or 2 since December, just kind of keep you updated. But I stopped it for a reason, right? I mean, these are cyclical stocks. I've been following, this space since TSM. It was probably in the 90s. AMD was down. I think the first time I started trading AMD was in the 40s. Then it jumped up to the 50s. NVIDIA a long time ago. So I'm very familiar with the space. It's not in my playbook right now. If you're finding a couple good quality ones, hey, not a bad idea, but just don't be overloaded in tech. That's all I'm going to say about it. Have a little bit of diversification there. Now here's PLX. This is what I like to see. My favorite chart pattern. This is it, hands down, favorite chart pattern. It's the easiest, simplest chart pattern. Value on the rise. Price action on the rise. Stock is undervalued, right? And look, we just got a breakout today. Drug company, nice big body candlestick. Let's go to 3 months here. Boom, look, RT keeping us in that trade, finally breaking out of this consolidation here. RT's favorable right now, 1.34. Roger says, boom, got one right. But yeah, this looks good right here, this PLX. I like this drug company. So again, if you're heavy tech, this may not be a bad one. Even the price action, for a drug company, that's not a lot of volatility for a drug company. I'm sure a lot of you have looked at drug stocks before. That's about pretty smooth, right? And look at the forecasted data, 40%, 74%. So even if I'm a swing trader, if I'm a long-term investor, this stock can, essentially this one can be a candidate for either or, right? If I'm long-term, if I'm a swing trader, just watch out for the retest on this consolidation, on this 270. PLX is not news-driven today. Oh, okay. Good. Sure. Yeah, for drug company, I would think it'd be a little bit more of a move if it was news-driven. I'm so glad I sold my S&P call and made 2K. I was going to wait, but we've lost 4K right now. Again, it's all about the discipline, right? If you do not have good discipline, I would be less focused on buying stocks right now and more focused on how you can improve discipline in your everyday life. I don't care if it's, setting a time to read, walk, pick up running, pick up a hobby, exercise, dieting, something to improve your discipline, right? Because if you can improve it in just your day-to-day life, well, when you start trading and looking at your portfolio, those habits tend to carry over into investing, right? Because other than just staying on the right trend of the market, which VectorVest, we all know does a great job at, the other half of that is just discipline. It's the psychology of trading, right? So that's why I say, if you're not disciplined, if you find yourself stressed out, going against, your trading plan, or, keep going back to the drawing board, take a moment, breathe, right? What can you do to help discipline, right? Mental clarity. That's going to be a big part of trading that a lot of people, I feel like, just don't talk about enough. All right, here's Zim Integrated, transport, shipping. I don't know how shipping and the tariff situation is going to play out. I'd imagine that might hinder a lot of growth when it comes to international shipping, just because if a lot of countries are going to be more, domesticating their industries, they may not need international shipping quite as much. But I mean, as far as, but our growth rate does tell a different story here. You can see it was negative, but now it's positive 6%. Sales growth rate, 80%. So it is climbing here. RT relative time, you're just seeing, if I do a freehand line here. Oh, you did break this trend. Looks like it wants to. No, it's right there. Let's zoom in 3 month. You can see it's right here. If that RT breaks above that downward trend line here on it, then I'd get a little bit more optimistic, right? But right now, with price action below the 20-day EMA, it's not in the fast lane. I'd put this one on your radar. I'm not going to, especially a down day, but honestly, just to trade in general, I think it's a little early on it. I mean, that's up to you. But for me, what the system's telling me, I'm not there right now. I do get it. If we could do something like this, If we can stay above this trend line, get above that 20-day EMA, get RT, a little bit more above this downward trend. Hey, I can see that. More shipping to China, to Europe. Yeah, I could see that. But is Europe going to subsidize? I do see the shift in shipping, but I still think, it could put some strain on international shipping demand in general. I think the demand picked up quite a bit because everything was trying to move around, get to different countries before the tariffs kicked in. But we're all going to see how this plays out. But as far as the chart here, early on the trade, but it looks like this trade could actually work out in the near future, though. I do have some optimism for this trade. Whoever gave this to me, this is a good one. I do like it. All right, here's Banco Marco, foreign banks. I like foreign banks. We're all seeing cash flows go, different exchanges around the world. A lot of things, foreign banks, foreign entities, foreign ETFs. They're doing well, right? That's kind of been the tariff playbook, that and gold, right? Maybe some insurance stocks, things of that nature. I bought Zim at the bottom. Jazz, I think that might work out well for you. Since you already got a little cushion zone, you could just utilize that trend line, keep it simple. But for anyone that hasn't bought into Zim yet, we're like on the cusp of the confirmation that I'm looking for, right? But here's Banco Marco. Let's go to a year chart here, see what we got. So this, since January, Banco Marco has rolled over here. Interesting. But look, undervalued. RT is above 1 right now. Price action in the fast line. I don't like the upper wick, especially with resistance zone coming in here in the near future. And look, sales growth rate on the decline. Sales growth rate coming in at negative 75 now. This isn't a bad one. I think there's other foreign banks that might be a little bit better, personally. I do see a gap here, which I don't like a big gap, especially on a quick swing trade, because it could be tempted to fill that gap. So if you are in this trade here, just be careful of this gap right here. Let me go with 6 months. You see the gap. So that's around $86, $87. If it breaks that and goes into the gap, it'll be filled. It'll be tempted to fill, and I'll bring it down to about $80. Just give you a heads up there. But look, fresh buy recommendation. Value starting to rise again. Price action's on the rise again. I like it. I do like it. I would trust this more than a tech company right now. But again, just be careful. And as long as price action stays in that fast lane for my short swing traders, hey, ride it out. If you're more of an intermediate swing trader, give a little bit more wiggle room. You got the 20-day EMA here, right? And both of those, even the 20-day EMA coming in at $84.96. It's a pretty tight stop on it. And you're talking about, around 10% roughly. All right, here's AMAT, right? Here's another semiconductor company. Again, I cannot get with the semiconductors. You're seeing that cyclical nature in them. Their time will probably be coming soon. I don't think. Typically, this space works out better when there's news of interest rate cuts, right? Because you're low. $123 right now. It's $144. I'd put my stop somewhere in there, or you could just use a trend line. If you did do some bottom fishing on here, overall, it's not a bad pick. Again, it's just you got to have some time. You got to be disciplined, right? These can be very volatile stocks, semiconductors. You're seeing that here. It was at 260. Now it's at 140. Was at 130. So it was down 50% from its high at one point not too long ago. So just keep that in mind, okay? Here we've got NVIDIA, right? Descending channel. Valuation on the decline. Price action on the decline. Every time it gets above this 20-day EMA, it's short-lived. I get it. NVIDIA, it's at 103 right now. But look at the growth rate in earnings. They're getting slashed. Sales rate, growth rate, getting slashed, 78%. RT, relative timing, right? We do have something interesting here. That is hitting a higher high in the RT. We've got a higher high here. So I do see some optimism with NVIDIA. If I'm going to play this space, obviously NVIDIA is the king of the castle right now. But it's in this descending channel, right? So if you're in it, see what happens if it does get up to this upper end of the channel. If you start to see rejection, taking some profits, mitigating risk, then not a bad idea. But some real confirmation, some real optimism in NVIDIA wouldn't really come to me until 119. NVIDIA is the most important stock in the world. Yes, it is, Bill. But it's also prone to one of the largest risks in the world, China, right? And trade relations with China. We've already seen them and AMD getting huge hits. They are caught right in the crosshairs of U.S. and China relationships, just with the importance of their semiconductor technology. They're all made in Taiwan, right? So, if China does decide to invade in Taiwan, that's not going to be good for the stock by any means. That's the reason why, the Trump and Biden administrations have been, rushing and working with TSM to build fab plants. I know AMD just announced their chips are going to be made in Arizona as well, along with NVIDIA. And this will be the first time that these chips are made on American soil, which will definitely... Because Warren Buffett, not Jimmy Buffett, I was listening to Jimmy Buffett yesterday, but Warren Buffett, he used to own TSM, and he sold his position just solely on the geopolitical risk of Taiwan. So, I don't like politics. That's why I debated in college, so I know a lot about politics. But that's the biggest risk for NVIDIA, for AMD, all that good stuff. All right. But yeah, NVIDIA is the most important stock in the world, along with TSM and ASML. And honestly, ASML might be even more important than NVIDIA, because China is trying to replicate or make their own lithography, advanced UV lithography machines, right? The manufacturing equipment needed for R&D purposes. I know Intel bought one of these machines for like $500-600 million. They're very expensive machines, but China's trying to make them themselves. So we'll see how China's, that's also the biggest threat. The semiconductor, at least American designers, my opinion, is if China does catch up, well, guess what? They're most likely going to be cheaper, and they're not going to be restricting exports on them, right? So just keep that in mind when it comes to NVIDIA. Here we've got Comfort Systems building AC heating ponds. Don't say that I just bought 45 shares. Sorry. But I mean, NVIDIA is still important. NVIDIA, I'll say this. If you got NVIDIA with a dollar cost average around $100 or less, you're going to be probably really happy in the next 12 months. That's just my opinion. You're probably going to be very happy. That's probably one of the safest bottom fishing candidates out there is NVIDIA, just because of the importance of the company, right? Because even if China catches up, whatever, that's years down the road, right? That's years down the road. So just keep that in mind. Here we've got Comfort Systems. Looks like it wants to break out of this consolidation here. It's been teeter-tottering. Let's see here. Undervalued. Valuation coming at 504. Price at 362. I actually like this a lot. Heating. Let's see your growth rate forecast at 30 and 38% respectively here. NVIDIA, building humanity's future masters today, right? Bill says our NVIDIA average cost is $5. Lunch is on you, Bill. Lunch is on you today. Should I sell my NVIDIA and just put all my money in Tesla? That is risky. I have more faith in NVIDIA than I do in Tesla. Tesla, it's really gotten into the political spotlight, especially with their EVs, right? And we all know EVs are more environmental friendly, and we know which side of the aisle that goes on. So yeah, that's probably not going to work out for car sales. Let's be honest about that. Hey, was yesterday the bottom? On what? Because the bottom would have been, I think, last week or the week before when it comes to the Qs. And I talked about that Q bottom, right? If you bottom fished on tech, I really like the bottom I saw just because in the Qs it matched the support back in 2021, 2022. If anything happens to Elon, Tesla is toast. Mac Daddy, I don't disagree with that. I do not disagree with that at all, right? He is the face of the company. He's the man with the plan. So just with that being said, I'm not going to disagree with that. Here we got 1 year FIX. It's back in this consolidation here. Let me just see if this 361 from this swing high from this consolidation here. That's what I'm looking for, which we are above it. We're in the zone right now. If you want the confirmation, take out today's wick. Obviously, no one looking at this is going to say, ooh, let me buy this with this, upper wick today. Nope. But as far as, swing traders, hey, it's above the 20-day EMA. It just went into the fast link. Just give us some confirmation, see what happens. If you're looking for more an investment perspective, the stock's undervalued, not a tech company. So I'm going to be a little bit more optimistic about it right now. Less volatility. Forecasted data is great. I like everything about it from an investment perspective. There's no real red flags here for me. Let's see here. Mac Daddy agrees, most definitely. Yeah, it won't be good. It would just be like, for Meta, what happens, if something happens to Zuckerberg, right? They have, they're that's them, right? That's it might create some buying opportunities. I'll give you that. It might create some buying opportunities. Growth rate 32%, sales growth rate 16%. This one I like here, Stride Inc. This is Business School Services. It's got my favorite chart pattern. Value on the rise, price action on the rise, a dip here and there, not too much, volatility. But look, buy recommendations. Ooh, all right. I got the hiccups. I think Glenn had the hiccups the other day. They're going around here. Let's go to 1 month. It's just the upper wick here. That's the only concern. The upper wick, this resistance zone, coming at 143.57. If you're looking for the breakout, look for confirmation, right? Look for that confirmation. If you're already in the trade, you got the fast lane, you got a 20-day EMA, something like that. Why is Palantir so slow? I don't know. Zuck doesn't have the name brand like Musk. He does not, and that's why I think Elon is trading, or Tesla is trading at high multiples, right? We've all, Tesla could be like a cult-like investment following, as a cult-like investment following, and the stock is way overvalued. Meta is undervalued, or at least last time I looked at it, it was undervalued. So if something happened to Zuck, I'd be less concerned. But right now, the premium is when it comes to the Elon name, right? Let's call it how it is. I've said it before. The stock ain't worth it just solely as a car company, but I understand the data, the batteries, the autonomous robots, right? The robots, the autonomous driving, right? We all know about these things, but they have to come to fruition. They got to make money, and in order for me to make sense. Right now, you're just paying a whole lot of premium on undelivered promises right now. That's just personally. But I do get it's volatile, and you can swing trade Tesla for some good money right now. All right, but here we got value. Value's on the decline, but look, forecasted data on the rise. RT relative timing has remained above 1, right? There's one little dip here below 1, but the trend is in our favor. I like this, especially with the breakout. Just look for the follow through. Let's get a close or two above it. Again, if you're in it, Star Search is good. 20-day EMA is also good. Here we've got Sizzle. Looks like it might be trying to do like a cup and handle. You can see the rotation coming in here, right? Might be the first half of a cup kind of thing. Potentially a reverse head and shoulders. Say if we get another dip here, right? Could be shoulder, head, shoulder, off to the races. Those are some possible scenarios for you. Forecasted data, sales growth rate over 100%. Growth rate and earnings, 54%. Stock is undervalued. So yes, from an investment perspective, I like it. From a trade perspective, I like it. I do like it. Put this one on your radar, SEZL. But I will just say, the SEZL, if you see the pullback in the near future, it could be, setting up for, reverse head and shoulders on this downtrend, right? So if it's a reverse head and shoulders, you just break the neckline to the upside and boom, you're off to the races. Hopefully, right? Hopefully. No one's got that crystal ball. Here we've got Kroger. I like food stocks. Again, one of the top RT industries since the beginning of the year, and the tariff turmoil, as I like to call it. But look, value on the rise, price action on the rise. Down day to day. We got a wick yesterday. Obviously, concern if you're in it. As far as an investment perspective, stick to whatever stops you had, right? As far as a trade perspective, still in the fast lane, right? Still above the 20-day EMA, right? But as far as forecasted data, nothing too spectacular here. 8, -7, nothing really to brag about there. But RT relative timing, it's continuing to climb. You can see the trend over here since February. I like what I see here when it comes to this. Is going to be a more conservative, if you're swing trading or investment perspective, more conservative, more risk off, as you could tell. So just, keep that in mind. But I do like this stock here. I do like it. The buy recommendations coming in. if you want confirmation, maybe get the RT back above 1.45 or price action take out yesterday's high. That would be the confirmation I'm looking for, right? Here we've got, that's an interesting name. What is that? Iki. It's a foreign bank, IBN. Value on the decline. We're seeing a divergence here. So this is one of the reasons why I like our valuation, right? This is kind of the theory, the logic behind valuation. This is a great example here, right? We got value way up here at 38, right? We got price action down here just below 30, right? The reason why we favor undervalued stocks is because potentially, these like to meet in the middle somewhere, right? So I would like price action to meet value somewhere in the middle, right? Or go all the way up to value. That's the best case scenario. And if we look at the arrow, and if I use a freehand line, right? You can see price action trying to make its way up there somewhere in the middle. And that's the whole point of, getting into an undervalued company, right? I know Warren Buffett, he said it best that the market, can get it wrong as far as pricing stocks, especially during volatile moments, things of that nature, or market hype. Certain things get overvalued compared to others. So the market's kind of correcting itself. It's a foreign bank, a lot of consolidation, just had the breakout above, about $32 was the resistance zone here. Now coming as a level support. If you're in this, be careful because you got to retest potentially and you got a gap to fill. So best case scenario for the bulls, it comes down here, fills the gap, retest, nice pivot on the 20-day EMA. You can see the 20-day EMA lining up nicely here. So if it does pull back, that's kind of the scenario I could see happening. Obviously if it breaks below that, get defensive. So if you are in this and you see it pulling back a little bit more, just don't be surprised if that happens, okay? Otherwise, if it doesn't do that, it might just stay right above this gap here, which is right around 32.90, right? Right now it's at 33. So just be careful of the retest there. Don't freak out too much, if it does start rolling over. But that pivot on that 20-day EMA and that support zone right here, that's the ideal situation. Otherwise, if the momentum continues, you got Star Search here, which is the upper Bollinger Band, and it's still in that upper lane. Here we've got Disney. Now, Disney has not been doing a whole lot over the last 6 months. You can see it's high, close to $120. Now it's at 87. It is undervalued, but what I don't like about it, look, price action on the decline, value on the decline. Both of these items are on decline here. Growth rate, 16%. Sales growth rate, 5%. Let's see here. Let's go to 5 years. That's a whole lot of consolidation here, right? The stock, again, this is the power of the value in the VectorVest 7 software. And this is actually going to be one of the presentations that Glenn and I give. We've got some really good insight and stuff I'm not going to go over. But again, perfect example here. Look at the freehand line. You look, value, if we look at the beginning of the year, what? Value had to go up. Price action had to come down, right? And then once they met somewhere in the middle, now you can see the stock becoming undervalued. It's all about having patience, right? So from an investment perspective, yeah, now is probably one of the best deals you're getting on it, right? Growth rate's climbing, sales growth rate, 5%, nothing spectacular. If you are an investor and you're thinking about NVIDIA, yeah, you're getting a deal right now. You're right at the bottom of this channel. You can see the channel here, right at where this low is. And you're not far from that low. Honestly, if you are going to do the dip on and you want to buy at the bottom of this channel, I just put a tight stop right here. You can loosen a little bit, just in case there's a break to the bottom and a pivot just to knock out people out of their stops. But honestly, yeah, if you're going to bottom fish in it, I'd get into sooner than later and just be more disciplined on it. Otherwise, if you don't, look at your stocks and you're not, trading and all that good stuff, just, wait for it to get above the 20-day EMA or the real confirmation. Oh, you're going to be right above $100 here. You can see that 124. So yeah, I understand if you don't want to give up, 87 to 124. That's what I'm saying. Now would be a good time to do it just because you're right at the bottom, with a tight stop under it in case it doesn't work out. Here we got Banco, SA. Let's see here. Value on the rise, price action. again, I mean, there's not much to talk about. I like what I see here. It's my favorite chart pattern. I can't express that enough. Undervalued. Because if you look at it this way, look, just a good example here. Look, value having to rise, or price action having to rise to meet value, right? But as value rises, price action's also got to chase value. And it's chasing value, I mean, quite to the T, not even just on this last run, but even before, right? So our valuation looks like does a really good job. Look at Holo. I won't say the other part. Holo is, I haven't looked at this stock in a while. I take it it's moving quite a bit here. Here we've got TXNM. This is a utility company, undervalued. We see valuation here on the rise, growth rate, sales growth rate. For the current market conditions, not bad at all, right? Look, steady rise in price action. The company was way overvalued, but something happened here to, obviously you can see the growth rate earnings actually jumping off. It was kind of stagnant, but then it really started to kick off here. And that's when value started to kick off. You're still getting a good deal here. We're valuing the company at $54. It's fairly valued, coming in at 53. Price action above the 20. Maybe on this one, just put like a 40-day moving average. Give a little bit more wiggle room because the 20-day is a little tight on this. It's a utility company, so I'm not going to talk about Star Search. It's not the kind of company you look for, a swing trade kind of thing. But if you are more a conservative swing trader, hey, we can get a breakout here. It takes out this, surpasses this high. That might be a good little swing trade. Nice, safe, easy swing trade, especially if you're new to swing trade and don't want a lot of volatility. This one might give a good, might present itself an opportunity. But right now it's a down day, so not going to get into it. Forecasted data I like. As far as your defensive utility play, yeah, I'd put this on the radar for sure. Here is Silver Trust. Over the last year, it was $24. Now it's $30. You can see, look, big day on silver today. I like silver. I know gold is overbought. Silver. I might be looking at to do a video on silver tomorrow. I'll have to see. And I'd be more interested to see what central banks think of silver, because one of the big reasons why gold is going crazy is because central banks are buying a lot of gold. I wonder if they're loaded up on silver too. I'll do some research on it. Tomorrow night might be a silver video. But hey, look, it just got up above the 20-day EMA. You can see last time, every time it's done that, you get a nice little run at least. But yeah, if you're defensive, if you are, pessimist on the economy, things of that nature. I mean, yeah, the silver is like utility. It's a defensive play, right? Gold has been hot. I've been talking about gold forever. Not when I'd say forever, but I've been talking about gold for quite a bit. Here's SOLT. This is 2 times leveraged Solana. This might be interesting play here. See, it just came out above the 20-day EMA. I want to take out that prior high. If we could take out that prior high, and as long as Bitcoin makes its way, what happened to checking on Fort Knox? Mac Daddy? Oh, Fort Knox. I hope the gold is there. I will say this. If you're holding a gold ETF and they do check it out and there is no gold in there, I have a feeling that ETF's going to do real well, right? Because gold is going to skyrocket when they find out, or not when, but if there is no gold there, right? And that is a conspiracy. So, don't bet your your life savings on a conspiracy. But here's Solana. The fact that Solana is coming out, and then someone just mentioned XXRP, which I'm going to send to the data manager. Some optimism, some new blood is coming into the light when it comes to these ETFs and crypto. But this is what I've been saying. The Bitcoin reserve is one thing. Right now, all I want to see is Bitcoin, because that's the crypto. That's what it's all about. As long as it can stay above, it being down 15%, because right now the MAG was down like 25% collectively. As long as it proves to the market that it could be less volatile in times of turmoil, that's a big selling point. Because the biggest, other than, it's not backed by anything, which, we can argue that. The only other thing is volatility, right? That's the biggest argument with Bitcoin. If Bitcoin really wants to be a reserve asset, it's got to fix that volatility problem. And now with big institutions involved, I think we're going to see that problem fixed, right? And it did break its downward trend line as well, Bitcoin. So, optimism is going to go to the rest of the cryptos after that. Oh, here's BTC, and there's that trend line I was talking about above the 20-day EMA. If we take a look at this, is the ETF here. You can see it rolled over 45 to 35, and then now making its way back up. XXRP is tradable on Webull, right? Thank you, Maria. But yeah, I'm going to send that to our data manager. They might be adding it soon. Do you know how long it's been tradable? And honestly, I haven't seen much news about XRP and the Solana one. I'll have to see what other ones came out. And I've noticed when I go to cryptocurrencies, there's a lot of new type of cryptocurrency ETFs out there. There's one that's just Bitcoin and gold. I talk about it in tonight's video, and it's hitting a 3-month high. There's not too many, Bitcoin tech related items hitting 3-month highs right now. So if you like Bitcoin, but you want some gold, definitely check out the video. You'll see it. The VectorVest composite has made its halfway back to the opening. Okay. Again, that breaking that downward trend line, I think even the VectorVest composite, the DW, there is optimism there. That's not news driven. That's chart related. I like that. I like it, right? Because, the news can change every other week. We've already seen that. Here's Ethereum, right? Ethereum is kind of like the problem child of the cryptos right now. It really just hasn't been much life in crypto. Even when Bitcoin was rallying and XRP and everything was all hyped up, Ethereum just gave us this little bit of jump here. It's been giving it back, though, for the most part. Ethereum does have a big ecosystem, though. But, the RT relative time, it's at 0.42. So it just started yesterday. Okay, so it might be coming to the database soon, but I'll check with the data manager. Just double check. All right, so there's Ethereum. You heard about crypto. Here's Yield Max, PLTR is optionable here. I like what I see here above the 20-day EMA. And actually, look, it just went into the fast lane. But this resistance zone here, let me actually go back out to 3 months. 64.05. We need about $1 more, and then we can get some confirmation, right? It's just first day in the fast lane. If you're in it already, probably don't have too much concern, but Palantir, the only concern I have with Palantir, that's way overvalued, right? Way overvalued, and the valuation is not ticking up, so just be careful of that. But I'm not gonna pretend like I'm some yield max expert, right? But if we go to a 6-month chart, we could see how these yield maxes can profit quite a bit, right? And they play a pretty heavy dividend from what I hear and from what I've seen for the most part. So, yeah, if I'm thinking about bottom fishing on big tech, Palantir, NVIDIA, whatever it may be, if I don't want to have to do the work of, maybe getting a lower dollar cost average with, options, whatever it may be, if I want to bottom fish and let the yield max do the work with the options, hey, that's not a bad idea. I like the yield maxes, but again, you just got to look at, what the dividends are. And just make sure that the price appreciation lines up with the dividend, right? Because if this just keeps going down, and the dividend's not, making up for it by any means, well, that's not really a good plan, all right? I don't want to see the underlying asset just, deteriorate and just hope on a good dividend. No, that's not what I want to see. Here's Amazon. I still got my mom in Amazon. She didn't take my warning of getting out of cash when it was about 230. But hey, look at this. It's back above the 20-day EMA, but just upper wick. All the tech is showing me upper wicks right now. PLTR signs 30 new clients in 1 week. Their Q1 25 earnings is going to be insane. Just you wait. It's going to explode after May 5th. I don't doubt that. No, me and Glenn have talked about it. They've got government contract after government contract. And not just our government. Governments all around the Western world, right? I don't think they do too much in China, but I don't think the U.S. government probably wants them to do anything in China. But that being said, here with with Amazon, as long as it stays above this 156, 161 range, yeah, it's Amazon. It ain't going nowhere, especially with all, Temu and Shein. Their party's kind of coming to an end with high tariffs on China. I see Amazon, benefiting from that, right? And not only that, they got their hands in all kinds of other things, the cloud business. Palantir may be the next NVIDIA. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know if I want to go that far, but maybe. It's hard to say if it's going to be the next NVIDIA because, you know, it doesn't do what NVIDIA does. And NVIDIA is the, you know, the hardware. Well, it does do software as well. But Palantir is going to be on the analytics and software side of things. All right, we got Amazon. Again, it's looking good. Lower left, upper right, the stock is overvalued. I mean, look at the big gap up here. A lot of optimism there. I imagine that's probably earnings related, and it was not. So it was news related, jumped up, gave it all back, almost filled the gap, but nice retest. Yeah, as long as it stays above the 20-day EMA, I like it. Look at the growth rate, 32%. Sales growth rate, 34%. Yeah, Bill, growth-wise, yeah, I could see that. It's the leader in AI software and can be used in any industry. Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. Did someone give us Palantir on this list? I feel like it would have already popped up. I don't think it would be in the second half. Let's see here. We'll take a look at Palantir. Here's Vertiv Holdings. Broke its downward trend line, but it's giving all the gains up, right? All the tech is doing that. So yeah, if you truly believe in the company and you're disciplined, hey, you can jump in any tech you want. But I just, you know, it's risky, right? So unless you're an active trader or investor, you know, I wouldn't, jump in it right now, at least not in large positions, right? You know, and that is definitive based on your portfolio size. But here, Vertiv Holdings, 29%, 26%. I like it. Sales growth rate on the rise. Earnings growth rate is declining. The stock was so overvalued. It finally came back. It was undervalued, fairly valued. You know, anything under $80, I think you're getting a good deal on VRT, especially if you're an investor. But I wouldn't be in a rush to buy it as of today. We got Google earnings is tomorrow, by the way. So we've got some big tech earnings coming in. So we'll see how that plays out, right? Earnings, obviously, the results is important, but I think more importantly is just people want clarity on these earnings calls, how the tariffs, how the trade war, whatever you want to call it, is going to affect their business and their bottom line. And I don't see that being a good conversation for most companies. Just my opinion. But here is price action. Look, diverging away from value, right? Price action on the rise, value on the decline. So I'm not going to get there as, all warm and fuzzy as an investor. If you know something news related, something I don't know, hey. But it is in a good spot. Insurance, right? Insurance is working. So as long as it stays above that 20-day EMA, I'm going to ride it out and make some money in this market, right? As soon as it breaks below that 20-day EMA, I'm out of it. Move on to maybe even the next insurance company. But insurance has been hot lately, so I do like the industry it's in. Forecasted data, above 20, above 40% respectively. It is now getting into the fast lane. I like what I see here. And look at the RT. Just the momentum just keeps climbing to the upside. Even with this dip here, is a higher low than the prior. So if we take out this low here, 1.5 on the RT, yes, I'd start getting concerned because that shows me that RT and the momentum might start rolling over. What kind of food will you and Glenn be having at dinner in Charlotte? I'm attending the daytime events, but I am jonesing for some dinner in Stockton. Roger, I'll tell you that. If you have never been to Fahrenheit or ever been to Charlotte, it's a beautiful restaurant. I mean, the food is phenomenal. Last time I went there, it was wasabi mashed potatoes with a soy glazed salmon. It is phenomenal. And the wine is phenomenal. So yeah, if you're coming out, and I think there are like a few, there's definitely a few spots left because it's limited to just 10 people. There's not that many spots left. So yeah, if you want to sign up for it, hey, or if you want to decide, the day of and there's room, because there's 10. It cuts off at 10 people, right? We know it's $495, but again, you're getting a bottle of Jarvis wine is like $200 or $300. You can Google it. We're going to drink those, and then we're going to go to a really nice dinner that's on VectorVest, right? So, just saying, it's $495, but you're going to get your money's worth, and it's going to be a true VIP experience. The wine tasting is in a presidential suite in Uptown, and then like 2 doors down, we go to the Fahrenheit Tower, and it's like 27 floors up, beautiful skyline. So again, Roger, yeah, definitely, check us out. The daytime stuff, it's all free during the day. And then at the night, the evening event, Yeah, there's a ticket there, but you are getting things with that, other than just, hanging out with Glenn and I, And we're going to be playing a game. We're going to do the Shark Tank, right? So that's going to be a lot of fun as well, where you could pitch, your stocks, and I can be Mr. Wonderful and tell you that, I'm pretty much telling you that your business is crap, your stock is crap, and you need a royalty, right? I want a royalty deal. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Definitely check us out. Joey, just put the link in the chat, just that way. Oh, Carol, I heard you were coming, Carol. Mark told me you were coming. I am very excited to see you as well. I think I might have a friend. She is in retirement. She lives here in Cornelius. I think she's going to go to the day event. She might go to the evening event. I'm not sure yet. So if you're new to investing, if you're really just, if you're caught on guard, if you want to be a VectorVest subscriber or don't want to be a VectorVest, it's definitely a good way to, get some one-on-one time with us and ask any questions you may have about the software, right? Because us, we don't try to, sell you the dreams of the Lambos and all that stuff. No, we just give it to you how it is, tell you, stay on, here's the trend. Try to stay on the right side of the trend, right? The rest is up to you. No reason to overthink it. But I do like this insurance company. Let's see what the next one is. What time is it? 12:30. Oh, we got to roll. Joey, you always ask me how long we're going to plan on being here. I don't think we're ever under an hour, are we? All right, Rare Earth, USAR. Boom. 6 months. All I'm going to do right here, because I know this is a volatile position, boom. It's right there. Look at the buying pressure right on that bottom trend. If it breaks this trend line, how far down it goes, who knows, right? So I want to stay above this trend line. The one thing I don't like, valuations on the decline, right? This is a hype stock. Rare earth minerals. You want the value one or closer to value? It's probably going to be U.S. Antimony. Here's SoFi. SoFi actually would have broke its downward trend line above that 20-day EMA, almost in the fast lane. So if you did some bottom fishing on it, hey, not mad. There's no reason to be scared right now by any means. If you're thinking about buying it, I'd want to see it go up just a little bit more. So we got a gap here, maybe above this resistance or just in the fast lane, and we'll see how it goes. Let's see here. We've had dreams of Temu EVs here. Oh man, I don't know if I trust especially who would want to drive an autonomous vehicle you get on Temu? I think it's a one-way trip. All right, here's Coinbase Global. Again, look, it's going to kind of move in sequency, to what Bitcoin's doing. You can see it's kind of breaking this downward trend line, just like Bitcoin, above the 20-day EMA. But right now, the company is just overvalued. I do like the valuations on the rise, right? But it's just overvalued. It's not far from it. Valuations at 121, it's 196. But yeah, it is overvalued. Growth rate, 43%. Sales growth rate, 138. I don't see cryptos going anywhere, especially, being an investor my age, and I know people even younger, even people older than me. A lot of people in crypto, it ain't going nowhere. I mean, you can, unless the internet shuts off, it ain't going nowhere. And if the internet shuts off, you're going to have a lot more problems than what Bitcoin's doing. Let's be honest. Here we got AG, First Majestic. This is a silver company here. Again, we're seeing that momentum start to pick up. Nice full body candlestick today. It's still below the 20-day EMA. But again, I get it. It's a hedge, geopolitical hedge. So, tiptoeing it, loading up on it here and there, not a bad idea. I'm going to be bullish on silver. I know that, it's early right now, not quite the confirmation you'd look for, but it's silver. The only thing I will say, the stock is just overvalued. All right, so keep that in mind. Look in the space. See if you can find some undervalued silver stocks. I'd probably prefer that. But the one thing from an investment perspective, look at the growth rate. Rather flat, and it started taking off to the races. It was negative, and now it's finally positive, 3%. Sales growth rate, 26%. John Boston, I call crypto crapto all the time, and my friends say, okay, enough with that. That's when I know they are losing money in crypto. John, I've said it before. You want the best advice when buying crypto? Only look at crypto, only buy crypto when no one is talking about it and when the sentiment is negative, right? Because if you're buying it, oh, reserve, oh, Trump policies. Well, it's already way overstretched, right? So stick to the chart when it comes to crypto. And a lot of crap, there is crypto out there. And you know, they're called meme coins. They're pump and dumps, right? So if you want to play that game, that's on you. But if you want something, I'm not going to say tangible, but if you want something, tried and true for at least the last 20 years, it's Bitcoin, things like Ethereum, Solana, XRP, that's on you. I'm not a big I'm not gonna say it's bad. It just, I'm more of a Bitcoin person. That's just the gold standard in it, right? That is the gold standard. Here's UAMY. This is stock I've been talking about since this little descending channel. Breakout, value on the rise, price action on the rise. This thing is running. I like it. Look at growth rate jumping, sales growth rate jumping. I know USAR. I'm not going to sleep on USAR, but I've got more than just a couple weeks worth of data. I got more candlesticks I can analyze. I got things like that. The value is on the rise. The other stock, it was on the decline. So I'm an antimony fan. I've been talking about it for a while. I've gotten in and out of it a few times. I like the position. I don't see the rare earth thing going away anytime soon. Here's uranium. Uranium is hard. One thing I will say that could push uranium is just, if tensions get a little bit tougher, a lot of uranium comes from Kazakhstan. That's one of the largest producers of Kazakhstan. That's right between China and Russia. So if something happens there, that's going to put a lot of pressure on uranium prices, and that's when you could see the big jump, potentially, right? But as far as the company, overall, it's detrending, overvalued. Growth rate, earnings, 36. Sales growth rate, maxed out at 999. But I will say this, look at this, because I'd want more confirmation in uranium. The RT finally, hopefully about to go above 1, right? We see it trending higher, getting close to the oscillation point here. It is in the fast lane. It's above the 20-day EMA. So if you're a little bit more aggressive, more of a trader kind of person, yeah, you're seeing those entry points, right? If you want confirmation, hey, there's 2 levels of resistance here. If you knock those out, I have a feeling that RT will be in favorable territory, and that's the more conservative approach that I see while trading this. All right, we got to get through these. We got AMA here soon. We got Lucid Motors. Nothing. Nothing good here. Nothing. Overvalued. Way overvalued. Let's go 5 year. Let's go to 5 year. Way overvalued, right? Look at that. I'm saying, look, value is not going up, so price action keeps going down and down and down until you get a good deal on it. No, I'm not here for Lucid. There's more players entering the space here. We've got Slate that Glenn spoke of yesterday. The sales growth rate is good. You got to have a good optimism about the kind of, maybe some things coming down the pipelines that I don't know about. But as far as the chart, as far as the sentiment in the space, I'm just not there with Lucid right now. I'm not going to bottom fish on it. Here's ARM. Only thing I'm going to say about ARM, I talked about this before, kind of, when it was losing its momentum. I said I had a feeling that it's going to want to fill this gap at some point in time. Look at that. Perfect gap fill. Is the bottom in? I don't know. The valuation, I want to see a little bit higher. The stock is overvalued. I'm not going to pretend like it's not. It's definitely trading at a premium. But that gap fill has got me feeling really good, though. That's got me feeling good. Maybe just throw a little trend line on here, right? See if that works. I'm considering selling puts to build a long-term position in AMD. That's not a bad idea. I am considering selling. If you can get a dollar cost average of AMD, I'm going to say, sub 90. NVIDIA, I'll say sub 100. AMD, I'll say sub 90. Yeah. I think that'll work out very well, right? But again, those semiconductors are cyclical. That's why you've seen the whole space, the AI pumped it up, but then the cyclical nature. And then you got China concerns. So just be careful. Don't let it become emotional, right? Because semiconductors are more volatile than the top 5 cryptos right now. Yeah, think about that. Bitcoin has a less drawdown than NVIDIA during this most recent pullback. So just keep that in mind. These are volatile in nature. So if you're, they're not crypto because we know they do important things in the world, but they are volatile, just like crypto. They can be very volatile. And I'm not talking about the meme coins. That's a whole different ball game. But if you look at the top 5 market cap cryptos, especially Bitcoin, just keep that in mind. But I do like, I mean, that's a pretty chart. I like it. It's just overvalued. Just like Palantir, that's my concern. But there's a lot of things going on with it. ARM, they've got almost 100% market share on the CPU for mobile phones. Now they're trying to get in the data center space. I think they're at like 15% of the data center CPU market share. They're trying to get to 50%. I think they can probably achieve that on the CPUs. Here's XRO. This is my level of resistance here, $12 to $14. If you're not in it, hey, this stock has been going down, down, down. If you don't know what's going on with this company, Glenn did a video last night about it. There's a lot of things going on. I'm not going to tell you to buy it. I'll say a disclaimer. I got family that owns shares of this company. Confirmation, this is my level right here, right? The company is way overvalued. This is the last time I talked about it, right? When it broke its downward trend line, the stock was way undervalued, right? You see the value jump. But they've got some things in the pipeline. Hopefully it'll come next year. But again, don't let this become emotional by any means. Here, Kava. Here we got Kava here. Kava is just a nice rollover, right? I want to get above here. Let's see, what is this? I'm not going to get warm and fuzzy until we get above 94.06. That'll put us in the fast lane. That'll put us, well above the 20-day EMA. I like what I see when it comes to that. But the stock is overvalued, right? So don't ignore that. On this type of market, with all these stocks pulling back, I either want the stock trending up, going against the grain of the market, or I want the stock to be undervalued if I'm bottom fishing. That's it. Here's DJT in the fast lane, 20-day EMA. I mean, it depends how you feel about, the company and, the politics involved with it. That's on you. But RT relative timing is now in favorable territory, right? This is a swing trade. Am I an investor of this company when it's valued at $359? No, not at all. It's hype. We all know it's hype. Don't try to tell me it's not hype, because it is. But look, technical analysis says, hey, this thing could make you some money here. So depending on how you feel about the company, that's on you. We got Tesla here. Tesla just still, we got the gap up. Looks like indecision. Again, Elon saved it, the earnings call, because it could have gone real bad. But he said, hey, nope, I'm coming back to the office. We're going to take a little break on Doge. We're going to fix Tesla, and we'll see what happens there. But me personally, it's just overvalued. And until the autonomous, maybe until some of these political headwinds blow over, because he's kind of caught in the crosshairs there, I'm not touching it. If you want to trade it, use a 20-day EMA, maybe some trend lines, keep it simple. All right, here's Palantir. This is going to be how we finish up today. We've got value is still flat. It's my only concern. I've said it. And look, it's back in this little, I don't know what you would call this, like a reverse wedge. So if it does continue, I mean, that thing could rock it, right? Because you see the last rejection, which I got lucky with that call because I drew this line here. But yeah, as long as it stays above that 20-day, look, it's back above 100. I'm not going to talk about the valuation. We all know the importance of Palantir. It's not going anywhere. But, there's so many articles talking about its PE ratio, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's way overvalued. And the growth rate earnings, 24%. Sales growth rate, 36%. I'm going to treat it like the technicals. Yeah, I get the application use. I get the importance of this company. But the VectorVest 7 software is telling me the stock is overvalued. And if I Google it, Palantir overvalued, you'll see a whole lot of, respectable articles talking about the overvaluation, right? But investors are willing to pay a premium because a lot of the sentiment is, hey, this is the new NVIDIA, right? That's the sentiment, right? Until that sentiment fades away, I don't hear that no more. Then, it is what it is. And Glenn's still holding it, right? He's got diamond hands. And Glenn is playing this with house money, by the way. He doubled up, and supposedly he's playing with house money. So he doesn't even have a stop on there. This is just his little baby. And, if you're playing with house money, hey, that's up to you. His initials, they call him that, tall. All right. What time is it? Oh, 12:44. We got to go. It was a great power hour. Again, next Thursday, the next power hour is going to be live in person. Next Thursday. And then we're going to do a special presentation for about 45 minutes. Glenn and I are going to give you a great presentation. And then right afterward, Glenn is going to do trending Thursday, live in front of a crowd, right? It's going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina. Joey's put the link in the comment section. Check us out. And if you want to hear more about it, we will be going live again at AMA Afternoon Market Action. It is Western Wednesday. Join us at 2 p.m. and I'll see you there.